Hi, this is Mike Bryant, Kyle's dad. You can hear more about me on episode 14. But for now, enjoy listening to this episode of Two Disabled Dudes.
Welcome to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast. We believe life is about how we react. We're looking forward this week, Wednesday, September 16th. We're going to be moderating the Rare Together, Watch Together evening for the Global Genes Live Rare Patient Advocacy Unsummit. And we're hoping to see some of you on the call.
I'm looking forward to it. There's going to be some cool films that we're going to have the opportunity to talk to the filmmakers about.
We have previewed the films. So they're short, so it's not like you're going to sit and watch three feature-length films or movies. So it's not a 4-hour production, but we're certainly looking forward to being a part of that again, and we hope that you're able to join. globalgenes.org, genes like DNA, GENES, globalgenes.org. All right, Kyle, where are we at with one things? We took at least 1 week where we didn't really give an update on them. So I'm curious. Not too long ago, let's go backwards a couple weeks. You said you're going to do some working out at home a couple times a week. How'd you do?
Yeah, so I have to admit that I did not do very good. Actually, I didn't do any at all.
You didn't. It wasn't even not very good. It was just not.
I know. Oh my gosh. It was I don't know. We all have excuses, right? And that's kind of what this is about. And I got home every night and I was really tired. And then I was like, I better sleep in or not sleep in. I mean, I got up at 7, but
so tired.
Excuses. I've got them all the way through the roof, man. So,
all right. Well, what are you gonna do about that? What's your plan? Are you just gonna give up and just not work out?
No, my plan is to work out twice this week.
Nice.
And
right.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what happens when we don't follow through on a goal, right? Is that it rolls over
Hopefully.
the next week.
Yeah, I think part of the value is that it begins to be front and center, or it comes to the forefront of our mind. So even though we missed the mark 1 day or 1 week, hopefully it remains top of mind and we're able to get into the swing of what we want to be doing.
Totally. Like, I feel bad about not doing it. And that's the point, right? You should feel like I should feel bad. So, yeah.
Yeah. Shame on you. Not really. No. But, I am glad you admit that, because my one thing a couple weeks ago was to cut back on Starbucks, right? I think I said, I'm only going to go 3 times this week. Well, today is number 5. So I didn't quite hit the mark, but I think it's important to tell you the week before, because, we had kind of pre-scheduled that commitment, right? And so I kind of went into it knowing, okay, I've got to cut back this week. And I looked at my calendar and my schedule, and I knew when it was going to be really helpful and enjoyable for me, what days. The week before, I had gone to Starbucks 13 times.
Holy shnikes. And
dude, I'm not kidding.
Dude, how much is it?
$5.
$5 every time.
$4.95 every time.
Dang.
So even though I didn't hit the mark of 3, I feel really good about 5. And I'm gonna be honest with everybody. Remember, the whole reason this is even on my mind is the money aspect, right? Like, to an extent, it's kind of a waste of money. The caffeine doesn't bother me. I don't mind a little bit of sugar and the cream, like all of that stuff. I'm cool with that. But I look back at my statements and I'm like, wow, I spent a lot of money at Starbucks.
Yeah.
So
Just
to go,
coffee.
from 13 to 5, like I felt pretty well accomplished. And I had a conversation with a friend, and of course, he had a different perspective. He's like, mental health, if that's, important to you, then what's wrong? And you can afford it, like, what's wrong with it? So there's certainly a balance of, okay, I don't want to be completely wasteful. And I really do think going twice a day, that's just wasteful.
Yeah.
That's an addiction. That's a craving that I feel like I can, what's the word, like, hone in on. Like, that's not,
Yeah.
for that to be my go-to, I don't think is really healthy on several levels, or at least two. So part of me doesn't feel bad about 5. I do feel bad, though, that I didn't hit the mark that I committed to, but I also don't know that I'll commit to that again.
You were making your own coffee for a long time, right?
I
What
was.
happened?
Well, I got to a point where I felt like I was drinking too much at that point. And so in that regard, I felt like coffee was a crutch.
Just like volume. You were drinking like 5 cups or whatever, right?
Yeah, and it was all morning. So it'd be like cups and cups and cups until lunchtime,
yeah.
right? So I felt physically unhealthy in that regard because I wasn't really eating breakfast. I certainly wasn't drinking water. So to an extent, I cut out coffee, period. And then it was COVID really that got me back into, okay, let's just go through a drive-through a couple times a week. And then I fell in love with Nitro from Starbucks. And I'm like, wow, it's really good coffee. And so then I went 3 days a week, and then 4, and then every day. Anyway, I feel like whether we talk about brewing coffee at home and drinking 8 cups a day, or spending $4.95 at Starbucks, or whatever the case, I feel like a lot of what's coming out of my mouth right now are phrases and words indicative of an addiction.
Yeah.
So maybe the reality is there's more to work through there.
Yeah, no, I think I had that same thought, but I didn't want to
say it.
I didn't know where your head was.
Yeah,
so,
no, it's cool. It's cool. So let's move on to our 500 phrases for Google. How did you do this week?
Dude, I knocked it out of the park. It's easy to do. It just takes time, right?
Yeah.
And focus, I guess.
Some
not focus, but like
intentionality.
into there. Thank you. Yeah. It's not hard. So,
and I think same thing. I got my 500 done. I found myself doing more on the last shot than earlier in the week because I kept putting a little bit off, but I got them all done. And what I found was, what's really powerful in breaking it down to just 500. You'd say it's easy, but I know that for some people it's not.
Yeah,
it takes a little bit of work, quite a bit of effort to work the software and repeat all whatever. I know it can be exhausting, but what I found to be really powerful, and this is actually true in a lot of areas of life right now, when you break it down into small chunks, it's a whole lot easier to get to the end and look back and say, wow, I did all that. I think about climbing Mount Everest, right? I've never done it, but it's a 3-month process. Like, nobody just does it in a couple of weeks. You kind of just tackle a few miles at a time, or a few points at a time, like riding your bike, right? You never set out to ride 3,000 miles across country. It's just get through the first day.
Yeah.
And get through the second day. And even though for Google, we need to record 3,000 some odd samples, break it down. Get a couple hundred done this week or this month. And before you know it, 3-4 months go by and you've done your part, which I think, again, speaks to the power of identifying that one thing we're going to work on what is that one little step or thing you can do this week, this quarter, to help move you to a place where come the end of the year, into the week, you're going to look back and be proud of the progress you've made. So
Yep.
you made a good job getting your phrases recorded. For our listeners, we hope that you're jumping in and getting your samples in as well. We know Bob appreciates it and
Yep.
Google appreciates it. So be sure, again, check out our show notes. We'll continue to link teamgleason.org/Project Euphonia for a couple weeks. Hopefully we can get more people involved in the process there. Kyle, I know you've got a story on your mind about your housing situation. Tell us.
Yeah. So a few weeks ago, I don't know, I've been talking about, that I am in the process of buying a condo, and everything's going smooth and it's great. The unit was built in like 1970 something, and so at least one of the doors I can't even fit through at all with my wheelchair. And all of the doors are tight. So when I get in there, I'm going to hire a contractor to modify some of the walls and whatever for accessibility. So I called the office of the condo complex, because one of the things is they send you the rules, like the HOA rules.
Yeah.
And it was like 50 pages of rules.
Of
Like,
course.
no, you're not allowed to like leave anything outside your door. It even specified like frisbees or baby strollers or benches or
I
like.
love it. That's my kind of place. Like, keep it neat, keep it organized.
Yeah, I knew you'd like that. So I called the HOA because in the rules it says if you're going to do any structural modifications, you need to let us know. So I called them and I said, hey, this is the deal. This is what I'm doing. All right, I need to hire an architect. So I've been working with an architect. And I said, the architect wants to come by sometime soon and take measurements of just the exterior doors, so they can recommend a couple things as far as entrance, like ramps and stuff, because it's 8 inches from the floor, from the ground to the entrance of the unit. And like somebody that's not using wheelchair, that's just a step, right?
Yeah.
It's no problem. But obviously I can't. So I was talking to her on the phone and she goes, oh, well, so the HOA, you just have to be aware that they may or may not approve that because it's an exterior modification. And I was like, well, what about, for issues of accessibility, for wheelchair accessibility? And she's like, oh, and there was a clear hesitation. And she's like, oh, we've never done that before. So so we'll have to review it and see how it goes. And so I'm just thinking, in this process, it's going to be an opportunity to exercise my patience muscle. And what we were talking about a few weeks ago in episode 114, just an opportunity to work through it. I'm going to do everything by the book, and I'm going to call them every step of the way, because partly this is a relationship that I'm starting that I hope that be good. It's a good relationship for a while, so yeah.
Is there any concern for pushback, or do you think ADA rules will support you? Like, what are you thinking in regards to that relationship?
Yeah, I'm thinking that, I really don't want to do anything that they don't want to do. I want it to be a conversation of, hey, this is what I need. This is what I'm thinking. And then they can say, well, what if you just change this?
Sure.
Oh, all right. You know what I mean? And so I really don't want to go into it just being like, this is the way it's going to be. And,
Sure.
let's get lawyers or whatever.
Do you think it's important? Like, are you crossing those bridges before you commit to buying or purchasing? Like, what if you purchase and then all of a sudden you've got a battle on your hands because HOA said no?
That's actually a good call. So I mean, it's not contingent on the sale is not contingent upon that, So
Do you
I'm gonna
think it
close
should
on
be?
October 5th. Yeah.
I'm just
And
wondering.
that's why I'm committed to like making this a civil and like reasonable conversation, right?
Sure.
Not like trying to go in guns a-blazing and stuff. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Huh. All right. Well, good luck and keep us posted.
Thank you.
I know
Definitely.
there are a lot of ADA rules that obviously or laws that'll support you, but I also know there are a million loopholes for businesses and public
Yeah.
locations. Granted, the front door of your house wouldn't necessarily, I don't think, be considered public, but I know that there are ways that businesses continue to get around what they have to do. So I would certainly encourage you to stay on top of that long before you commit to buying that place.
We'll see. I'll definitely keep you in the loop. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you know
So
what I like about your little story there? You threw out an idea, and we haven't talked a whole lot about it, but just in your story alone, I think it's coming out a little bit of what our differences are, right? You talk about
mhm.
your HOA rules of no frisbees, no shoes, nothing at the front door. That's my kind of place. Like, I'm
Yeah.
cool with that. But obviously some other people would be like, really? You're so picky. Like, who cares? It's shoes at the front door.
I was thinking about this exact subject the other day, and it came to mind after I had gone through the week of really focusing on cleaning up my dishes. Like, how simple is that, right?
Mm,
And you give me crap saying that we can never be roommates because that's our pet peeve and all this. And I was like, oh man, I need to clean up my act. I need to be a better person. But
mm,
then I was thinking like priorities in life. For me, I prioritize other things other than the dishes. And obviously,
like what?
there's such thing obviously there's a such thing as like two priorities at once, or but like if I really want to get something done before my energy runs out for the day, I'm gonna prioritize something likely over dishes.
Sure.
And so, and I was also thinking like, if you're gonna be disorganized like me, I messy like I don't know, coloring outside the lines or
Sure.
whatever.
You can call it whatever you want to make yourself feel better.
I think if you're gonna be that way, and I realize I am that way, that's just maybe it's part of who I am. I don't need to beat myself up, but I do need to take huge actions in life because so this is what I was thinking about. For example, say I did a bake sale and I was messy, right? The signs weren't like attractive. I didn't go out there when I said I was going to be. My timing was off. I didn't keep good books. And I made $112 and 15 of it went missing
Hmm.
because, my books were off and I was being messy. That's a huge problem, right?
Sure.
But say I'm gonna ride my bike across the country and there are tons of unknowns and things get messy, and you really have to dig deep and just muscle through to simply make it. Does the scale of it hide some of the messiness, and being super like by the book doesn't matter as much when the scale of it is so big?
Sure. I don't know. I think I track with what you're saying. I understand. But I also wonder, does the ultimate objective have anything to do with it? Because the reality of it is, whether it's a big thing or a small thing, the end result is going to be impacted. So is it a matter of what the end result is going to be? So take the big sale, for instance.
Yeah.
If your goal is to be able to contribute $112 or whatever it was to a certain cause, and now you can only contribute like 97, 98
Yeah.
because you lost some, you didn't hit your goal. Sure, it's only $12, but that percentage wise, that's, I don't know, 20% or somewhere around there. That's kind of a big chunk. When you think about riding your bike across country, the objective was to just simply get to the finish line. It wasn't
Right.
necessarily about keeping your camper organized or your van clean or, things of that nature. So I wonder if the end objective or the ultimate objective has
Yeah.
something to do with the impact of being organized or being messy or whatever the phrase is or words you want to use are.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe we all adjust our expectations of ourselves based on our personalities and traits, I guess.
Yeah, I think, well, one thing you said early on in this recap is you said, I need to be a better person, need to clean my act up, whatever. I don't know that being messy or disorganized or a little cluttered here and there is a sign of you're not a good person. So
Right.
I think I would track with you on that. It's not a matter of good and bad or anything in between. It's a matter of that's the way you are.
Yeah.
So you don't put your laundry away right away. That doesn't make you a terrible person.
Yeah.
I think part of the issue is gonna be what you do impacts others around you.
Yeah, like
And I
working
would
in a
argue
team, right? Yeah.
for sure, like for you and me, we're both single. For the most part, we live alone. I have a roommate, but you know, he's not here very much, and we don't have a lot of shared spaces. But for you, it you don't have somebody that a
Right.
dirty sink bothers or a messy living room impacts. I would argue if you were to get married or have a live-in roommate or a partner, that
Yeah.
might be a rub, that might be something where you're like, oh, okay, maybe I do need to change this or that.
Yeah. Well, see, maybe that's where priorities come in too, because like my need to not worry about my mess, at some point obviously the relationship is going to be the priority. And for me personally, I'm prioritizing other things rather than the dishes in the sink. They'll get done at some point, but like it doesn't drive me freaking crazy that there's dishes there.
Yeah.
But if I were to live with someone who I would want to prioritize that relationship over the dishes in the sink, like I'm going for dishes,
Hmm.
So
But now I just wonder, when you and I share a hotel room, let's say we are doing an event or we go somewhere together, we
all right.
often share space. So what you're telling me is, because I don't know if I've shared pictures online, your side of the hotel room is a mess. Your suitcase it's like, what is the, shoot, the old school Daredevil, Australian,
Oh,
Tasmanian Devil.
thank
Like,
you.
remember that cartoon? Always up. Okay. Your side of the room literally looks like that. Like, it's just everywhere.
Yep.
And,
Yep.
my side of the room is not. So, what you're telling me is in that moment, over those nights or days, your priority is not my friendship.
I guess it could be interpreted that way. Yeah. It's something else, I guess. So, Sean, this is a funny thing too, because we've been talking, I think we mentioned it a couple times in the podcast, but like when we're recording or, we're doing a live show or whatever, or we have a guest, I need everything to be written down word for word and like follow a strict outline to be able to do the show. And it's so weird because you don't need that. And like how do we reconcile that when you're the clean one and I'm the not clean one?
Yeah, there's certainly what I love about our friendship, we're different people. But we connect well and we work together well. So I guess this kind of goes to that phrase, opposites attract. Again, not that we're in a relationship or anything, but obviously somehow it works. Because we really are completely different people. I'll be ready to hit record and just see what happens. And Kyle is certainly one of those, like, no, we're not ready yet. Like, what are the first 8 sentences? Who's saying what and when and how? And there's certainly a difference between us, for me, line by line script versus an outline. And I'm cool with an outline. Let's just turn the mics on and see what happens.
Right.
Whereas, like I said, you've got to have it pretty well planned. And what's interesting, we joked about it not too long ago on another conversation. When we did the Global Genes talk, right? We were about to go, and it was timer was on, and I'm like, I don't feel ready for this.
No,
You looked at me like, dude, we're about to start.
There's
and
600 people in the audience, man. Come on.
And you had your outline right in front of you, and you obviously felt prepared. And I didn't, but it was fantastic. We both did.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah,
We had
it
a
was
lot of good energy on stage. It was just a great conversation. And it speaks to the differences of our personalities. I think planning a trip would be, okay, the hotel this time, the shuttle, the airport. We're going to have breakfast at this time, go to the meeting at this time. Whereas I'm just like, we'll just figure it out when we get there, right?
Yeah.
I book a hotel when I land at the airport. Not always, but sometimes I'm a little less plan ahead, I guess.
Yeah, and I think some of my coworkers or some people in my life might be like, seriously, you plan ahead? But so I don't know, it's weird how it works out where some things are organized and some things are just not, and probably the important thing is to not beat ourselves up either way.
Sure.
Whatever it is, that's just what it is.
Yeah, I think the value in that is recognizing those differences and working with them. One of the things I admire about you is your temper is a lot more controlled than mine, right? I lose a lot more than you, and you just roll with the punches. And that's important to me because I think if you fed me with the same kind of energy, then it would get out of hand. So in a sense, you're kind of laid back, like, no, it's cool. We'll figure it out later. Keeps me from going too far the wrong direction, right? Whereas also I know if I get frustrated with you, I don't think you take it personally. You're like, all right, Sean, he's just in a bad mood right now, or it's getting
Yeah,
to
yeah.
him, and you just roll with it, and we can talk tomorrow or later, and everything's fine. Um, Whereas, I'm like, it's the end of the world. Like, we gotta fix this right now. Like, what the heck?
Yeah, it's interesting to like recognize those things and see how they work together. And if we both had the same exact personality, we probably wouldn't be doing this 4 years down the road,
Yeah, it
right?
wouldn't get done. So I think the overall message today,
Mm-hmm.
figure out your differences, whether it's in your relationship, your friends, your coworkers, your marriage, whatever it is. Be able to identify your differences and find a way to work within those differences. Not saying that just simply accepting them is fair to
Yeah,
either
or
party,
ignoring. Yeah.
but certainly be familiar with what works and what doesn't, and try to find ways to work around them. I think overall, that's going to make life better, whether you're talking about a business venture or a fundraiser or awareness building or marriage or whatever it may be. Recognizing those differences and finding ways to work within them simply make life better, and it allows you to move the needle a bit in whatever that entity or that structure
But
is.
and maybe not even making life better, but making it work at all. Like that's just how things work. You recognize differences and you get over them and you work together. That's just
Yeah,
like, yeah, making life better is great, but making things happen at all is important too.
sure. Hopefully there's something in here that you can walk away with today and apply it to the way you get through a day. Hopefully we put a smile on your face or something. I don't know. What are we doing this week, Kyle? You've got a new one thing, I would imagine. Let's wrap this pointless conversation up.
My one thing is something that I've been thinking about for a while. I think like all and this totally relates to our messy versus clean and organized conversation, because I think like a lot of us, I'm doing a little this, a little that all day. And sometimes I get to the end of the day and I was busy all day and I'm just like, what did I even do today? You
Hmm.
know? But I'm exhausted. I did something, but I don't know. So what I want to do is be very strict with myself about writing things down. And I don't do anything unless it's written down. I literally like, I don't know. See, I'm trying to make up rules like you can't send an email without writing it down.
When you say write it down, you mean like plan ahead? Like because if something comes to mind, you gotta send an email. Are you telling yourself, are you gonna write it down first and then send the email?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It might
Okay.
be my rule. Like, okay, spend 15 minutes every single day from 9 to 9:15 and write your list.
Game plan.
And and then yeah, and then like obviously, like you said, things will come up. Like, oh, I need to email this person. Well, you can't, the rule is you can't send that email unless it's written down. So
Hmm.
you write it down and then send the email. Like,
Hmm.
so and I just feel like it'll help me stay a little more conscious. So I'm gonna give it a try, and
Yeah.
that's gonna be my goal for this week, to try
Okay.
that system out. It's kind of the whole thing that you talk about intentionality, right? Like
Mm.
if it's written down, it's obviously a lot more intentional than just like kind of bouncing from thing to thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's unlikely you'll forget it too, because
Yeah.
yeah, it's easy to forget.
What's your one thing?
I'm gonna stick with the whole nutrition, diet, food area again.
Okay.
I found myself consuming again too much soda. And when it comes to soda, what bothers me is the sugar, right? I feel unhealthy because I'm consuming so much sugar in each soda. Now, I'm not a fanatic. Like, I don't have to have a soda in my hands at all times, but I tend to drink soda with food pretty nonstop.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a pizza and Pepsi kind of guy, a savory sort of snacker with the soda or food. So I'm gonna eliminate two things that go hand in hand for me. That's soda and chips. You ask
Wow.
a coworker, I eat chips every day for lunch or with my
Yeah.
lunch. And I'm gonna just cut back and
It'll
see how
be
I feel.
interesting to see how it makes you feel,
Yeah,
right? Like, yeah, we'll check in on that.
for sure.
Nice.
Like so many of our listeners probably, they can relate to the, I don't know, um COVID pounds, COVID 20, COVID
Yeah,
10,
yeah.
whatever it is in your life. So, not that I feel like I'm getting heavier, but I certainly, there's room for improvement. So, I'm going to cut back on those two things. So, with that, Kyle, some thank you notes before we go. Who or what are you saying thank you to today?
I am recognizing my neighbors and saying thank you to them because I'm moving soon, and I just have been reflecting on how much help they've been to me, and not necessarily like I don't, call on them every day, but I have their phone number, and I know if I ever need anything that I can simply call, and that means a lot. It just
Mm,
eases the mind, right?
yep.
Like you can focus on other things if you know that other people have your back. So thank you to my neighbors. One is named Janelle, and then the one next door to Janelle is Darrow. So thank you so much.
Nice. I love that. Uh, we talk a lot about community. And there are different levels and aspects of community, and I love that you have a couple neighbors willing to help you out whenever you can. In fact, I think you told the story, I would say once, but I feel like you've told the story probably 20 times of, I don't know, locking your keys in the house or the car and a neighbor coming to your rescue. So
Yeah,
very important.
exactly.
We all know neighbors are important in your
Yeah,
life.
yeah.
I'm gonna say thank you to my friend Russell. Russell's one of those guys that when we get together, dinner, coffee, even just a chat on the phone, he's constantly pushing me to be the better version of Sean that I can be.
Yeah.
So I certainly um, appreciate the constant pushing and poking and prodding that he offers in my life. So as everybody knows, Kyle and I both believe in the power of gratitude. So we'd encourage you to be grateful and to express it, whether you're journaling it, sending a note, text, whatever it may be. Continue to find things that you're grateful for in life. And with the one thing, like we mentioned, identify one thing you can do today or this week to move you closer to your objectives overall.
All right. Thanks, Sean. And we're going to be back next week. So until next time, keep living with urgency. Thank you for listening to the Two Disabled Dudes podcast.
Find us online at twodisableddudes.com and subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Special thanks to our friend and audio producer, Jake Tompkins.